Hey team, welcome to another Bullpen Bulletin with Coach Hart and Building Better Baseball. We are in part 3 of this flow of a season coaching workshop. And in part 3, we're talking about everything that you should be coaching and teaching and focusing on during your mid-season. And if you missed the first 2 videos, the preseason and the early season, make sure you go back and watch those 2 videos first because this video here, we build on those 2 videos previously. So make sure you go back and watch those. But without further ado, let's get into the flow of the season coaching workshop, part 3. And remember, I'm Coach Hart. This is Building Better Baseball. This is the best place for baseball education. So let's get into mid-season, part 3. The first one is play to your strengths. So this is kind of a motto that you're going to have in your mid-season. Now, this is the second month of the season, just to clarify. This is the second month of your season. This workshop is broken up into 3 months. Now, by now, you know what your strengths and your weaknesses are as a team. You've been playing for a while, so you know what you do well and you know what you don't do well, right? In games, play to your strengths. If you are a fast team, then steal bases. If you are a strong pitching team, then use that to your advantage. If you are a strong bunting team or situational defense or whatever your strengths are, make sure you play to your strengths. Put your players, and that's what I say here actually, put your players in situations and positions that highlight their strengths in games. Now, I'm talking about in games here. So if you have a player who is really strong shortstop, then make sure you put him at shortstop. Or if you have a really fast player who can track fly balls, make sure you put him in center field and not at third base, right? By now, you know what the capabilities are of your players. So make sure that you put them in positions where they will succeed, right? And that's only in games. In practices, you still want to be trying to experiment and have them experiment with different positions and everything and try to improve them as an overall well-rounded player. But when you're in games, just make sure that you put them in situations that highlight their features and highlight their capabilities on the field. All right, so play to your strengths. Whatever your strength is in this season, make sure you focus on that during the games. Player development. All right. You've built the foundation of skill work with broad coaching in the first month. Every player on your team knows the basics of all the skills of fielding, pitching, hitting, all those skills, right? Now it's time to go more in depth with player development and get more specific with your players. So this is where we kind of get away from the cookie cutter mentality that we kind of had in the first month, where we did the 3 core things of each skill. This is where you kind of focus on each individual player and their individual needs, right? So if you have a player when they're hitting really drop their hands, make sure you give them a drill that will focus on dropping their hands. And maybe other players don't need that drill, right? Maybe it's just for that specific player. Or if you have a player when they're pitching, they really get out in front of their front leg and they only throw with their arm. Make sure you focus on them and their needs specifically. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is just go more in depth with each individual player as much as you can. I know that time is short and time is valuable and you don't have that much time to put into each individual player. But if you see something that an individual player needs, make sure you focus on that. Every player has the basic skills down. Now it's time to really go into their player development individually and focus on their needs. You should be adding more focused skills to your practice plans for team and individual offense and defense. So these are just more just kind of like honed in on the skills and very detailed and specific drills that you'll have in your practice plans. In the first month, we were very broad. We kind of covered the basics of everything. Now in the mid-season, we're really going in depth with all of the skill development and the team offense and defense. So your mid-season review. Make a list of things that are working, your strengths, and things that are not working, your weaknesses. And for the rest of the mid-season, you really want to have a 70-30 focus on weaknesses versus strengths. So focus more on your weaknesses, such as if you're not a good bunting team, make sure you do a lot of bunting. All right. If you are really strong at pitching, maybe don't focus too much on pitching, still have it there so you can kind of maintain it, but you're already good at pitching. You don't need to work too hard at improving your pitching, make sure you focus on your weaknesses, because this will make you a more well-rounded team. You've heard the saying of you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? It's the same thing as a team in your skills. You're only as strong as what you are weakest at, right? So make sure you put more focus on your weaknesses, because that will only build everybody up and bring the team up if you focus on your weaknesses and have like a 70-30 split between your weaknesses and your strengths. You still want to focus on your strengths because you want to keep that maintained, but really focus on your weaknesses as a team, because that will make you a more well-rounded team. And have some check-ins. Check in with your coaches, check in with your players and parents and goals, right? Just have a mid-season check-in and make sure everybody's doing okay, everybody's on the same page still. I know you've gone through half the season already, so some parents might have some different views, some players might have some different views. Even your coaches, maybe your goals have changed. It's really important to check in with all of these aspects of your team to make sure everything's on track and everybody's on the same page. And you want to build on your foundation, okay? The two mottos for mid-season coaching is to play to your strengths, like we talked about, and build on the foundation. You built your foundation in the beginning of the season. Now in this mid-season, we're really building on that foundation to really solidify all those little details and all those little kind of holes that we have in our game, right? And routines should be efficient by now, because we went over all that in the first month, which adds more time for new concepts in practice plans. So if you have a set of 3 plays like bunt plays or first and third plays, maybe you have time to add in another one, or maybe you have time to kind of refine your signs and add in some new signs. Maybe you have some time to work on some stuff that you didn't really have time in the beginning, right? So when you worked on all of your routines and you made that kind of like a well-run machine, that opens up your time in the mid-season to put some extra things to work on in your practice plans. All right. And that's why it's really important to focus on your routines in the beginning of the season, so that by this time in the mid-season, you really have that nailed down and you can focus more on different things, new things that you want to practice. And if you haven't yet, plan some team events or dinners or get-togethers or activities to strengthen camaraderie. All right, like you see in this picture, this should be every single team that you have, right? This should be the camaraderie that you see. All of the teammates just getting on each other and picking each other up and having fun, right? So if you haven't had a team dinner, if you haven't had like a team get together or a barbecue or some sort of thing like that, make sure you start to plan some of those things, because that's really important for the camaraderie and the cohesiveness of your team and just having everybody play together as a team. So as I said, the two mottos is play to your strengths. Whatever you're strong at, keep on doing that in the games. Work on their weaknesses and practices, and build on your foundation. So we built the foundation in the first month. Now it's time to build on that so we can really solidify our team and get those wins under our belt. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And like I said, this mid-season just really builds off of that first part of the season, where I feel like you're almost doing a lot of work up front in that early season. And now in the mid-season, you've gotten all your routines and all of everything set. Now you have a lot of time to go into the details and specifics of all the skills and all the team defenses and everything like that. You really have time to focus on things that you couldn't focus on in the first month. So this is what this mid-season is to really get detailed in all of your practice plans and add in some new stuff that you didn't have time before. So before you go, grab your free guide linked below in the description. I have a whole bunch of them down there. Grab whatever you would like. I made them for you for free to help you out in your baseball journey. So just grab what you like, whatever you think would be helpful for you. All right. I will see you next week for the last part 4 of this Flow of the Season coaching workshop. Hopefully you have found this valuable and you got some nuggets and ideas that you can implement in your practice plan. So remember, I'm Coach Hart. This is Building Better Baseball, the best place for baseball education. And I'll see you next week for part 4 of the Flow of the Season coaching workshop, the late season. All right. I'll see you there.